This is your next best step. And I'm Coach Janet J. Today, we are talking about something that does not get enough space in that week before Mother's Day. If this holiday is complicated for you for any reason, this is for you. This Sunday, your social media feed is going to fill up with flower bouquets, brunch photos, and best mom ever posts. And for some of you listening right now, every single one of those posts is going to land like a bruise. There is a name for the kind of grief you carry on days like Mother's Day, and researchers say it's one of the hardest kinds of loss to process precisely because nobody around you recognizes it as grief. Mother's Day was designed for one story, the story where you have a wonderful mother who is alive and present, or the story where you are a mother and your children remember to call. And if your story does not match that script, that day can feel like standing outside a window watching a party you were not invited to. Maybe your mother has passed away and this is the first year or the 15th without her. Maybe your mother is still alive and sitting in a memory care facility and she does not know your name anymore. She's right there, and yet she is gone, both at the same time. Maybe your relationship with your mother was complicated or painful, and you are grieving a version of motherhood you never received. Maybe you wanted to be a mother and it did not happen. And every day the ache returns quietly, predictably, and with no one around you who seems to notice. Maybe your children are distant, geographically, emotionally, or both. And the day feels more like a reminder of what is missing than a celebration of what is. Maybe you mothered the world, your students, your nieces, your nephews, your neighbors, your friends' children, and no one thinks to celebrate that on Sunday. If any of that resonates, I want you to hear me. Your grief is real. It is valid, and it has a name. Researcher Pauline Boss coined the term ambiguous loss to describe grief that has no closure. She identified two types: when someone is physically absent and psychologically present, like a missing loved one you keep hoping will return, and when someone is physically present and psychologically absent. That second one, that is the mother with dementia. The mother who is alive and sitting across from you at brunch and has no idea who you are. Boss spent nearly 50 years studying this phenomenon, and her research consistently shows that ambiguous loss is among the most stressful experiences a person can endure because the grief is frozen. You cannot fully mourn someone who is still here. And you cannot stop grieving someone who is already gone in every way that matters. And then there is what grief researcher Kenneth Doka calls disenfranchised grief, grief that is not openly acknowledged, socially validated, or publicly supported. He defined it in 1989, and it covers losses that society doesn't recognize as real grief. Think about it. When a mother dies, people bring casseroles, they send flowers, they give you space to grieve. When your mother has dementia and does not recognize you, when you are estranged from your mother and the relationship is beyond repair, when Mother's Day is hard because you've wanted children and that door has closed, no one brings a casserole for that. No one sends a card. The grief is invisible. And that invisibility makes it heavier. So why does this matter right now, 4 days before Sunday? Because when you carry grief that the world does not acknowledge, something insidious happens. You start to wonder if you are allowed to feel it at all. You see the happy post, you hear the sermon about honoring your mother. You watch the restaurant fill up with families, and you think something must be wrong with me for not being able to just enjoy this day. The day is hard because your love is real and your loss is real. Those two things exist together, and they are allowed to. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Let that land for a moment. God does not scroll past your grief. God does not minimize your loss because it does not fit the Hallmark card. Every tear has been collected. Every sorrow has been recorded. The grief that no one else acknowledges, God has been keeping track of every drop. I want to spend a moment here with those of you who are sitting with ambiguous loss, because this might be the loneliest version of Mother's Day grief. If your mother has dementia or Alzheimer's, you know what it is like to grieve someone who is still breathing. You might visit her on Sunday. You might bring flowers, and she will not remember receiving them. You might hold her hand and hear you call her by your sister's name. We're strangers. And the world will say, at least she's still here, as if presence without recognition is the same as connection. This applies beyond dementia too. If addiction has taken someone from you while they are still physically in your life, if mental illness has changed the person you knew, if estrangement means your mother is just a few miles away and might as well be on the other side of the planet. Pauline Boss would call this physically present and psychologically absent. And her research tells us something important. The reason this grief is so disorienting is that there is no closure. There's no funeral. There's no clear line between before and after. The loss is ongoing, and the world expects you to act like everything is fine because the person is still here. Here's how this touches all four pillars. Emotionally, unacknowledged grief creates isolation. When you cannot name your loss out loud, you carry it alone, and that weight compounds over time. Mentally, you may spend energy managing everyone else's comfort on Sunday, smiling through church, performing gratitude you do not feel. That mental labor is exhausting. Physically, suppressed grief shows up in your body. You might notice tension in your shoulders, disrupted sleep the night before, a headache that appears every May like clockwork. Spiritually, holiday grief can shake your faith. When the sermon says, honor your mother, and your mother was harmful or absent or doesn't remember you, you can feel invisible to God and to church in the same moment. So here is your next best step. If Mother's Day is hard for you, give yourself one honest sentence before Sunday comes. Write it, pray it, whisper it in the car. Say it out loud to a person you trust, or only say it to God. God, this day is heavy for me because fill in the blank. That is it. You do not need to solve it. You don't need to make peace with it by Sunday. You do not owe anyone a performance of happiness that you do not feel. One honest sentence named before God, who is already collecting your tears in a bottle and recording each one in his book. Before we close, let me anchor this. Ambiguous loss and disenfranchised grief are real, studied, and named. Your pain on Mother's Day makes sense, and God has been paying attention to every moment of it. Psalm 56:8 reminds us that God does not overlook the grief that others cannot see. And your next best step is one honest sentence, spoken, written, or whispered. before Sunday arrives. On Friday, we're talking about something that pairs with this and what it looks like to give yourself permission to not be fine, even when the world expects you to hold it together. That one is a little lighter, and I think you will appreciate the breathing room. Follow or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching so you do not miss an episode. And if you have a moment, a rating or review makes a huge difference. It helps other women find this show, and I am so incredibly grateful. I will see you Friday. Take your next best step.